We're going to look at a story today about Abraham. You know that song, Father Abraham had many sons? Well, we're going to look at who Abraham was, but we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to ask the question, what if things had happened in a different way? So first, let's introduce the characters. We got Abraham. Abraham was promised by God that he would have a kid, but he got old and he didn't have a kid, and so he and his wife Sarai decided that he should sleep with his maidservant Hagar. And he slept with his maidservant Hagar, and they had a kid named Ishmael. But then afterwards, he was able to have a kid with his wife, and that kid was named Isaac. Ishmael and Isaac fought, and Ishmael and Hagar got sent away because they were fighting. What I want us to do is ask, what if it had happened differently? What if that wasn't the way that it had happened? What if Abraham had trusted God and not slept with his maidservant? Well, one of the what ifs is actually really interesting. See, what happens is Ishmael grows up and he has a kid. And that kid 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 has a kid. All the way down until that kid has a kid, and it's the prophet Muhammad. This is a prophet of the Islamic religion, and what he does is he starts an entire religion called Islam. One of the what ifs that might have happened is if Abraham had just trusted God, there wouldn't have been an Ishmael. So Ishmael wouldn't have been able to have a kid. And that kid wouldn't have been able to have a kid. And that kid wouldn't have been able to have a kid, to have a kid, to have a kid, to have a kid, to finally have Muhammad. And then there would be no Islam. But that's not the only what if that might have happened. So let's think about it one more time. Let's put Ishmael back on the screen. What happens is Ishmael and Isaac start fighting. And there is strife and there are issues within the family. You would imagine that his wife Sarah is fighting with his maidservant Hagar. That there is a lot of tension within the family. One of the reasons why God asks us to do things is not so that we would just be good and follow after Him. One of the reasons why He asks us to do things is because it's actually good for us. When we look at this story, when Abraham doesn't trust God, what happens is there's strife between his wife and his servant. There's strife between two of his kids. If he had listened to God, if he hadn't have slept with his maidservant, there wouldn't have been that strife. There would be a family that was able to stick together, and while it wouldn't have been perfect, it would have been better than it was.